welcome back to another powerful episode of Mind Over Masculinity. I'm your host Avik, and today we are tackling a subject. Yes, dear listeners, I will say it's a subject, and that is both deeply personal and profoundly important, which is mental health for men. Yeah. So, dear listeners, for too long, men have been told, tough it out, or to bury their plan or pain and to hide their trauma. Do not cry. All these words, right? But what if that buried pain is exactly what keeps resurfacing? Like fueling the depression, anxiety, addiction, and the whole range of struggles that so many men carry silently. Yeah. So, for this, we have our lovely guest today. Please welcome Richard Tierney. So, welcome to the show, Richard.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you very much for the introduction. Great to be here. I hope I offer your audience some form of hope. That's my main goal. If anything else, is to give your men a sense of hope, men, women, and children. But I notice it's a men's audience primarily, so I want to offer you as much hope as I can.
Amazing, amazing. And before we delve deep into the discussion, I would love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Richard has created something bold and groundbreaking. So, a new 12-step program designed to help individuals heal completely from the mental disorders caused by past trauma memories. And he believes that in cause and effect, the effect is the diagnosis or the struggle that we face today, and the cause is often a painful event from the past. So his work focuses on guiding individuals to safely return that baggage to where it belongs in a way that allows them to reclaim their lives. Yeah. So I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's get into the discussion. And Richard, it's really an honor to have you here.
Vic, thank you very much. And you really explained it very, very well. I couldn't have explained it as well as you did. So thank you very much for that. I hope your listeners are now captivated by the idea. So, very simply, we only exist in these 24 hours. So, to give you an idea, yesterday I was all excited, nervous, and a bit apprehensive about meeting Avik today. And would I speak slowly and clearly? And would people understand my accent? And would I get a message of hope across? And here I am sitting in front of Avik doing just that. Two different versions of me. I can't step back into yesterday and the worry and nervousness of this presentation because I'm here today in the present. And they say the present is a gift from God. We only have the present. We can't step back in the past. There's no guarantee the future will happen. We may die in our sleep tonight. The world might end tonight. We only have these 24 hours. That's where our life is meant to be. And if we can focus all our attention on these 24 hours alone, letting go of the past and ignoring the future, we can have the most a wonderful, abundant life in this present moment. Whereas when we bring the death and decay of a dead thing into our present, it destroys everything it touches. And that's the big problem with this idea of mental disorders. It's about we bring the past into the present. And we're bringing a dead thing. It's like you went into a graveyard and you dug up someone's grave and you took out the dead body and you brought it into your present. And all that dead body is touching every person, place, causing disease and decay everywhere. You wouldn't think of doing that, but we do that with memories. We bring in memories that have no business or purpose to be in our lives in the present, and we start sharing them and saying, "This happened to me," and that's really what I'm trying to get at.
Mm, I totally agree on this, definitely. And why do you think that men in particular struggle so much with acknowledging their roots?
But there's a lot. I share it in my other program.
Mhm.
I saw a video. It was really TikTok or YouTube. It was a wonderful video. Two brothers inside the womb. I don't know if you've ever seen this. And one brother says to the other, "What happens after the umbilical cord is cut?" And the other guy says, "Oh, when it's cut, that's the end of it. It's all over." And man says, "What if there's something beyond our wildest imaginations? Don't be daft. When the umbilical cord is cut, we're finished, you know?" And that got me thinking about when we're inside the womb, they say we're made in the image of God. That's what Christians believe. And God gave us four responses to danger. They gave us fight, flight, freeze, and acceptance. We don't really experience acceptance until we actually are introduced to the concept of God when we're alive. So what we really have with the first three, which every animal on this planet has, is fight, flight, and freeze. So coming out of the womb, we don't die a death, we're coming into a new life. And in that moment, our
Mm,
response to danger is activated. So
mm,
for you, you might be a fighter. You come out of the womb and you're kicking and screaming and shouting, and the midwife wraps you in a blanket and puts you into a cot. And that moment, the message you get is fight doesn't work. This is the gift. This is the response God gave me. But fight doesn't work. I have to now, for the rest of my life, choose flight or freeze. And flight or freeze aren't my go-to place. So when I'm in danger, I'm going to be screwed because I want to fight, but I know fight doesn't work, and I have to use two responses that aren't good to me. For me, I was a freeze child. I would come out of my mum told me that I came out of the room and I was like comatose, and the nurse held me up, and midwife held me up by the ankles, slapped me on the bum to get a reaction, put me into a blanket. But in that moment, I was told freeze is not safe. So I'm
mm,
stuck in a state of fight or flight before we even become children and adolescents and deal with teenage and all that. I'm
mm,
stuck in a state of fight or flight. You're stuck in a state of flight or freeze. Someone else is stuck in a state of fight or freeze because they came out trying to run away. And of course, it looks the same as fighting, screaming and shouting and roaring. And they put you in a blanket and you're told that flight doesn't work. So I think three-quarters of the world's population come out like this. But there's a fourth child that comes out happy and joyous, comes out of the room and not a problem with them. And because the child's happy and joyous, they hand it to the mother because there's not any stress in the mother. The mother holds it to the bosom, heart to heart. And that child goes on to become a giant amongst us. We look up to these people as being, I wish I was like that person. He's so confident and strong and whatever, whereas I'm a ball of nerves. So I believe that that's what happens to us before we even get to be being born. We experience the first trauma that we three-quarters of the world population suffer.
yeah,
And that's the basis for where we come from. Then, depending on the culture we come from, whether the family are very strong. So in India, I believe your team are, the family is very important and very strong. And when I grew up in Ireland, the family were very important and very strong. And my wife is from Thailand. The family are very important and very strong. But nowadays, there's no support from family or friends, and
mm,
husbands and wives, they split up, and the husband leaves the wife on their own, or he doesn't get involved when the child's born, and the wife has to do everything on her own and raise the child on her own, and all these kind of things really damage a child's nurturing ability to be a normal child.
mm,
So it starts building up even before anything happens. There's all these
mm,
things come into it, like what happened in the womb and coming out of the womb, and then the circumstances of the home life, the culture, all that comes into it. Whether they were parents, whether they were loving parents, or they weren't, couldn't be there because they had to go out and work to make money, to hold on two or three jobs, and they were never there to be there present for the children. The children being bullied in school, all that kind of stuff comes into it. And this thing about clothes and not wearing the best clothes, and if you go out in poor clothes, you get teased and bullied by the rest of the kids because everyone else can afford rich and famous rich clothes, and you're wearing second-hand clothes and hand-me-down clothes and this kind of stuff, all has a terrible bearing on children. And if they're not nurtured and cared for and loved and explained that the clothes aren't important, what's inside the clothes that's important. But if they don't get this message, they can go to a place of feeling a lot less than inferior. And that inferior can cause bouts of depression, bouts of anxiety, bouts of whatever. They can be quite lucid and manageable in their day, but they can have moments where they have suffer nightmares, they can suffer flashbacks, they can suffer depression. But it's not a permanent state of depression or anxiety or nightmares. It's these odd moments they have these, they're triggered and they have these moments. And that's very much what happens to children, even before they get anywhere near becoming an adult and becoming a man. They have all this baggage and all these hard luck stories and whatever in their childhood that affect them. And because you want to grow up to be a man like your father and not cry like a girl or not be a big baby, and you put on this face of wanting to be strong, but inside is your nature to freeze and run away. So you're playing a lie. You're not being true to yourself. You're trying to be strong like your dad and be a fighter, but your nature isn't to fight. Your nature is to either flight or freeze. So this all has effect. So there's so much to it. And then the guy who fights, he's never known how to be a peacekeeper or a lover. He's always been confrontational and fighting for everything. And you can get burnt out, always being in charge, defending everybody, fighting everybody. When you'd wish I was wish like my brother who could just be at peace, you know. And so all these things, it affects all of us in different ways. So we got this huge, crazy kind of sense of upbringing that
yeah,
that can really knock us before we get started.
mm. I agree, totally agree. Yeah, yeah. And it's really powerful because I believe it reframes the mental illness not as a kind of permanent sentence, but as something that we can walk through by addressing its origins. So, uh, definitely, yeah, yeah.
Well, there's a
Uh,
couple of things about this. Sorry, I
Please,
didn't mean to
please.
cut across you, Avik. I thought you were about to stop.
No, Shlosi, please, please, continue.
So the big problem is, I don't think any of us are mentally ill. I really don't think any of us, anyone who's diagnosed, we're not mentally ill. I believe we suffer with, because of what our trauma we experience as a child or as a young adult, whether it's a veteran or something. We experience a sense of hopelessness and that sense of inferiority, of not being good enough. You get the message with the clothes you wear, and whether you can afford for good holidays or you're living on skin and bones. There's a message of being less than, of being inferior to your peers, to your fellows. And
Yeah.
there's a terrible sense of hopelessness in that. So the problem we have is, when you go to, if you have a sore tooth, you go to the dentist and it's hurting you like mad all week long. And the day you go to the dentist, there's no sore tooth. You're not going to go to the dentist and say, no, I'm fine now, and leave. You'll tell them, on Monday it was this bad, and on Tuesday it was this bad, and on Wednesday it was like this, Thursday was nothing, like today, Friday was terrible. And then they'll check out and say, you've got a root canal, or you've got a filling to do or something, and they fix it. If you've got a bad back or a bad leg, you go to the doctor, and the day you go, there's no pain. You're not going to say, doctor, no, I'm fine, and go, because you have this pain. You say, no, I have this pain, and it can be really bad. On Monday was very bad, and on Wednesday was very bad. And then the doctor can do tests and go, yeah, no, you pull the muscle there, we'll give you medication and put
Mm.
your back in a cast or whatever it is, and they get it sorted. So when you go to a mental health professional, you don't say, I'm grand. You try to describe to the mental health professional how bad it can feel, the
Mm.
hopelessness and the inferiority. So you describe the depression and the nightmares and the flashbacks and the triggers and the anxiety and the anger and rage, whatever. And then the mental health professional says, you have depression, or you are bipolar, or you have this. We're going to give you medication for this, and we're going to treat this condition. But they're treating the effect, not the cause. They can keep throwing medication and therapy at your bouts of depression, your bouts of anxiety. And taking all that medication into your system is going to alter your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. You're going to end up developing more conditions, because you're putting a
Mm.
poison into your system that's going against your system. When you put these chemicals into your body, you're self-sabotaging your ability to be a normal person, because these chemicals you're putting into your body, these medications, are altering your mindset, and it
Mm.
affects your emotions, and we end up being our own worst enemy. So the truth of this is, if you're a spiritual person, I'm a Christian, so I like the Christian idea that the past is not my business. What happened even yesterday is not my business. Even how you take this presentation, Avik. If you
Mm.
don't like this presentation, you say, I'm going to shelve this. This isn't really my cup of tea. It's not about
Yeah.
me. It's about your wants and your desires and your needs for you, for your channel.
Mm.
And you'll decide for you whether this is good for you, but it's not about me being bad, because I know my course is good. So I'm not the victim of you saying, I'm not showing this show. You'll make that decision for yourself, and it'll be you for you, but it won't be at me. Do you understand that?
I do. I do. Yeah.
So the idea with a past, what happened yesterday didn't happen to the person I am today. It happened
Yeah.
to a younger version of me. He suffered the fear and worry about meeting you. A 12-year-old child in my life 50 years ago, he suffered abuse. It wasn't me. I'm a 64-year-old man. I'm a husband and a father. I'm on Avik's podcast here. There's no one abusing me here in this moment. And it's not happening. And I'm only alive in this 24 hours. So what happened
Mm.
52 years ago happened to a 12-year-old child. It didn't happen to this 64-year-old man. And if I was to step back into the past and that man came anywhere near that child, I'd cover him. So I know it's nothing to do with me. What I carry is, I carry the memory of what happened to that child, and I carry sympathy pains for that child. And that causes the hopelessness and the inferiority.
Mm. Exactly. Wow. Amazing. Amazing discussion, I would say. And uh like one more thing, like two audiences, right? One is young boy and one is adult man. Um, if you had to choose where to focus, like mental health for young boys, um, preventing trauma from embedding deeply, or maybe healing adult men carrying the decades of trauma, where do you believe the impact is the greatest?
Well, I have two separate programs. I have one program for children, which is powerful for children and it helps them an awful lot. And this program we're talking about today is mainly for adults because the adults are the fathers of the children. And if they're really messed up, then we won't reach our future because those in charge today won't be able to do what they need to do to get us to the next level, so to speak. So this program is solely focused on children can do this as well, but it's a lot for children to take in. They're only children; they're not meant to be making making decisions at that age. But so the other program I do targets the 290 million children diagnosed with mental disorders. That would you believe that the mental health have gone after children as young as 10, and they've told them that their feelings and emotions are mental disorders. I mean, that's just a crying shame against humanity and against God. That children, I had this chat with your colleague only yesterday. Children have different stages of feelings and emotions. When they're for a small child, they have feelings and emotions about just me, selfish, and wanting ice cream and wanting treats. And then they get to be an adolescent, then they go into school and they learn about boundaries of school and learning, and their feelings change slightly. And then they go into secondary school and they become young teenagers coming into puberty, and their feelings change. They start being attracted to other people. And then when they get to be over 16, up to 19, they start going out on dates, rejecting other people, liking people, not liking people, all this kind of stuff. And they're growing up, but they're learning all these stages. So when they get to being a young adult and they move out of the home, they're fully equipped to handle almost anything. They know how feelings work. They know to trust their feelings, and if feelings come in, they take an action. They run away. They stand up for themselves, or they hide, or they ask God to take over it. But they're able to do that decision. But the mental health industry is targeting 10-year-old children, telling them that their feelings and emotions are mental disorders. We're destroying the future of the human race. Those 290 million children who've been diagnosed with mental disorders between the age of 10 and 19, they have no hope of having a normal life if they're led to believe that every time they have a feeling or an emotion that they're experiencing mental illness. It's shameful. So it's just a different program. If I get started on that, I'm going to start ignoring the men in the audience. So that's a program that is really to teach children that their feelings and emotions are not mental disorders, that they are in fact God's given instincts. That when you get a feeling, whether it's a tantrum, or it's crying out loud, or it's anxiety or depression, that's God saying to you, "There's danger nearby. Take an action. I want you to run away. I want you to hide. I want you to fight. I want you to let me do the work for you." So our feelings and our emotions are our God-given instincts that in the face of danger, we're to take one of the four actions of fight, flight, freeze, or acceptance. And if we can teach children, whether it's your child or my child, or if we can teach children that their feelings and emotions are not mental disorders, we're giving them their lives back. So that's a program I'd love to talk to you another time about, which is separate to what we're talking about today. But again, it probably plays into this because men were young boys one time as well. And we all talk about our inner child, that within every adult male, there's an inner child boy, and within adult female, there's an inner child girl. The subconscious, like the soul of us, is a young child.
Yes. So, I mean, from this, one more thing is like coming to my mind because when we're talking about a young boys or young person, so is it possible that by healing their fathers, we can also prevent the cycles of trauma, and then from passing down to their sons?
Well, I definitely believe so. But
Mm-hmm.
the big part of it is, again, it's conditioning. So, unfortunately, if a parent who has mental disorder is abusive, even though they may heal,
Mm-hmm.
the abuse they've done to their child, physical, whatever it is, emotional, that will have a lasting effect. When a father or mother betrays their child, that has a lasting effect on the child. Even though the parent might then break free of that and never do it again,
Yeah.
the worst betrayal is between a parent and a child. That's the way it is. When your parent betrays you, it's like you never forgive them. You may forgive your best friend, you may forgive strangers, but when your parents betray you in some horrible way, it's very hard for any child to forgive. To forgive that. That's just the way we're built. The one person you should always be able to trust is your mother or your father. And if
Mm-hmm.
they abuse you in some way, that's like destroys your soul nearly. It's very, very hard to. And I'm not saying all children will be ruined for life, but very hard to get past that and be okay in the future. It's very because you've learned to behave from your father that because your father did it, it's like it's almost okay to do that. And then suddenly one day you're a parent and your child acts out, and you automatically, because of the experience and memory of what your father did to you, you end up doing it to your son. And you regret it terribly, but you've done it, you know?
True.
Slapped him around the head or pulled his hair or called him a funny name or something, a big girl or something, whatever, to break his. You've because it happened to you in your childhood, and you're now dealing with a child as an adult. It's so hard. It's in your brain as a reaction. My dad did this to me.
Mm.
I'll give it to my son because I'm in an angry mood. And suddenly you say something that in your wildest dreams you'd never dream of saying to your child. Suddenly you see the look on their face. And you see the same look on their face that was on your face 30, 40 years ago. So it's very hard to say that it won't be. So again, so the trauma, you can get rid of the trauma, but if you've
Yeah.
created the trauma, that's the problem. So the trauma that you or I went through. So I suffered a trauma when I was 12 years of age. I was molested. But again, I can't say I was molested because I'm a 64-year-old man living in Thailand from Ireland, married with 2 children, on your chat show. And if I'm a 64-year-old man sitting here in front of you, it can't be a 12-year-old child who was abused 52 years ago. It's just not possible. I can't be in two places at once. So I have to stop saying things like, I was abused. Because if I live here and I'm here, I pinch myself, I go, ow. So if I'm here in front of you, I can't be in the body of a 12-year-old child. No part of me can be in that body. So I
Mm.
can't say I was abused. I can't say I carry the memory for a 12-year-old child and I carry sympathy pains for what he went through. And that's it. That's all I can say. But I can't own what happened to him because it isn't happening to me today. And all I have is today, right now. The Eckhart Tolle books, The Power of Now. The Bible tells us this. I'm sure Krishna or any teachings you know will tell you that your all your power is in the present. Your life is in the present only.
Exactly. And Richard, like I have to ask this, like, what personal story or experience inspired you to create this program? Like, what lit that fire in you? I mean, to help men heal this way.
But I remember because of my trauma at the age of
Mhm.
12, I stopped growing mentally and emotionally. So once it stopped, I felt such shame and self-loathing of myself because I let this happen. I must have
Mhm.
attracted this person to me. I believe it was my fault that I stopped growing, maturing mentally and emotionally. So I went through school and whatever, and I kept a big mask on and let no one know what happened. But later on, when I kind of got my own places in my 20s, I went to see a doctor and I was very depressed. And I told him what was going on. He gave me medication for depression. But taking and I said I didn't want anything mood altering, which is a stupid thing to say because medication is
Mhm.
mood altering. But I was gullible or whatever, and I didn't. So I took this medication, and I found myself one day. I'll never forget. I only shared this tonight actually with a client of mine. I found myself walking down the street in my hometown in Ireland. This is 40 years ago, and I saw this woman on the side of the road begging. She had a newborn baby in her arms. She was begging for money or food or whatever, and everyone's walking past her. And as I walked past her, she made eye contact with me. She said, "Please, can I have some money to feed my child?" And I didn't care. The medication had made me so unsympathetic, so unempathetic. I just it was like she was nothing to me. I walked past her like she was nothing to me, and it didn't matter to me, and it wasn't important. And I walked on and did my business. But that evening, when the medication wore off, I never felt shame and self-loathing that I passed a human being asking for help like they were nothing because they weren't Irish and they weren't citizens and they were from a foreign country. I couldn't believe I could be so loathsome. I was full of shame, and I don't think I would have behaved like this if I wasn't taking medication. I really believe that. If I hadn't been taking medication to block my emotions, my empathy would have been stirred, my kindness, and I would have reached in and given her something. And I decided in that moment to come off my medication. So I went to my doctor and I said, I need to come off my medication. And he said, No, I don't want you to come off your medication. You need it. You can't come off it. So I left him and I went cold turkey.
Um,
It nearly destroyed my mind. Stopping this medication. I thought it was a mild medication. If this is mild, I don't know what strong is because this nearly killed me coming off this mild medication that I took 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. Absolutely soul destroying mind. It was amazing coming off it. I had the cold, everything you'd have in trying to do cold turkey. It was absolutely horrific. But after about 10 days, I'd weaned myself off the medication. I did it just one day to stop taking it. And a lady said to me, I would like you if you take maybe 3/4 of a tablet for a week
okay.
and then a half tablet for a week and then a quarter tablet for a week and then finally no. I did it all in one day and I was like, But anyway, so after that, I got my feelings back, and I didn't like them because they'd been suppressed by all these medications. That there's a huge buildup of a stockpile of really kind of terrible thoughts in my mind, in my soul. But I wanted to do something about it. Now, I've been very fortunate that I had an addiction to alcohol and gambling, which led me to a 12-step program. And the 12-step program had a wonderful idea of I am not a victim, that I
Right.
have to clean my side of the street. I can't clean anybody else. I can't go back and change the past, but I can change how I view the past and the present. I love the idea of that. So I said I was going to try and use that 12-step program to help me deal with this hopelessness and inferiority I felt. I felt less than everybody. I didn't feel I deserved a girlfriend. I didn't feel I deserved the house I was living in, or the inferiority was very, very low, and the hopelessness was terrible and caused nightmares. But I didn't want to go back to medication. So I wanted to find some other solution. Then I got into all these holistic practices. The Bible talks about Jesus healed with his hands. You know, he'd lay his hands and say, see or walk, and they'd see and walk. And I wanted to learn how to perform miracles. So I better learn all these skills about using your hands. So I practiced EFT and acupressure and Reiki and all these different that involve your hands and the energy in life. And I didn't mind going to chakra and whatever. God gave us all this on this earth to use for whatever for our benefit. And even though it's not Christian, there's a lot of good stuff in chakras and all that energy stuff of the Hindus and Indians. I wasn't going to pass up anything. I wanted to find some way I could use what's available on this earth that's healthy to heal myself. So I started studying other spiritual traditions, even Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, you name it. I try to find anything and everything I could find I could use. But I kept coming back to Christianity. I kept come back down. The Bible said anybody can have a miracle. You can be a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim. You can be an atheist, an agnostic. You can be broken like me. And if you know how to ask for a miracle and you ask for it, he'll give it to you. And this is mind blowing. I was kind of going, what? Like, really? And yeah, yeah. And so I learned how to ask for miracles, and I learned how to get the miracles. Now, again, when I talk about miracles, I'm not talking about raising the dead or helping someone see or walk or whatever. I'm talking about gaining peace of mind for 5 minutes. I used to think if someone gave me peace of mind from my rat brain for 5 minutes, that would have been a miracle. I learned how to claim 24 hours at a time and 8 hours here for sleep. So I go to God and say, okay, God, I want 8 hours of peaceful sleep. Take my voices from my head, take my demons, take my dragons, give me peaceful sleep for 8 hours. I do this prayer practice that I learned, and I share it in my program. And then when I lay down, I have this night's sleep of no nightmares, no flashbacks, no triggers, peaceful sleep like a log, like the dead. I have this most wonderful sleep. But next morning thinking, that was too easy. Like that was my first miracle I gave myself with 8 hours of peaceful sleep. Now I haven't had 8 hours of peaceful sleep up until that moment since the age of 12. I'm having nightmares and flashbacks every single night from the age of 12 until I think I'm about 32 years of age at this stage. And that moment, I get 8 hours of peaceful sleep. And I'm saying to myself, that's a miracle. I don't care what anyone else says. I've just given myself 8 hours of peaceful sleep after I've had 16 years of nightmares and flashbacks and triggers and cold sweats and wetting my pants and all those, the terrible shame, the stuff. So I'm amazed. I suddenly realized if I ask for 8 hours for sleep, maybe he can give me an hour here for an interview, an hour there for a date, or maybe a half an hour in work, or commute to work's an hour and a half. Maybe he can give me an hour and a half here. And I learned to ask for an hour here, a half an hour here, an hour and a half there, 2 hours here, 3 hours here. On my lunch break, I've got an hour lunch, so an hour and a half, 50 minutes before, 50 minutes after my hour lunch. So I'd be peaceful and calm and collected. So Avik, I have to tell you, before I came on tonight, I asked God to make sure I'm calm and collected in your chat today, and I'm speaking clearly. I'm hoping I'm offering hope, and that's the prayer I did before I came on tonight. And I think God's with me. I think I'm speaking slowly and clearly. I think I'm offering some hope to your listeners. That's what I do. Every time I have any challenge, I say, God, I need 30 minutes here or an hour here or whatever. And they're my miracles, and I claim them every day. And it's that simple. I don't make this rocket science. I keep this as simple as though I'm talking to a child. I like to talk to the child within me, maybe. I want to make this as simple as possible for you and for your audience. I let God into my life. I learned how to ask Him to give me peace of mind. I realized I didn't need the fast car or the beautiful girl on my arm with the big house or whatever. All I wanted was peace of mind. And peace of mind is the kind of miracle that I will take any day of the week. So I ask God for peace of mind for 8 hours of sleep. and then peace of mind for that from the I wake up in the morning 6 o'clock, and I go to bed at 10 o'clock. So a 16-hour day, 8 hours of work and 8 hours of play. I might ask for 8 hours of peace of mind during work, and then 8 hours of play, or I break it down to in my 8 hour day of work. And maybe it's the commute is 3 hours, so peace of mind for 3 hours from getting up in the morning 6 a.m. to getting work at 9 o'clock. Give me peace of mind for those 3 hours, and then in work from 9 to my lunch break at 12 o'clock. 3 hours of peace of mind, and just that kind of thing, and that's what I found. So I wanted to create some way I could share that with others. But it wasn't religious. You don't have to join any church, you don't join any denomination, you don't have to join any man-made religion. You simply make a decision that you're going to ask this God. And if you're a Hindu or a Muslim or a Buddhist,
Mm.
just say, okay, I'm asking Richie's God to give me 8 hours of peaceful sleep. I'm asking Richie's God tonight, give me 8 hours of peaceful sleep, quieten the voices in my head, and give me 8 hours of peaceful sleep. I demand it from Richard's God. Thank you. And then when you go to bed tonight, go to bed with a smile on your face, and you find you wake up in the morning, you've had 8 hours of sleep, and you won't know how it happened. And you're kind of going, this is crazy. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. This Irish Christian guy on the podcast said, claim 8 hours, demand 8 hours from his God, and I could have it. And suddenly I've had 8 hours of peaceful sleep.
Exactly. I literally agree to you what you mentioned, and it's really awesome, and that's inspiring because often, um, I'll say it's a beautiful reminder basically that healing is not just a professional thing, but it's personal and it often begins with our own journey. So that's really amazing. And Richard, thank you so much for sharing your vision, your heart with us today. And what I take from this conversation is that trauma may shape us, but it does not define us. And with the right tools, we can release it. So, for the men listening, if you have carried a burden from your past, know this that you are not broken, you are not alone, and you are not beyond healing. Courage is not about burying your pain, but it's all about choosing it to face it and finally let it go. So, uh, dear listeners, if Richard's message resonated with you, check out his YouTube channel, Journey Therapy, and learn more about his 12 step program. And share this episode with someone you care about because you never know whose life you might change. And on this, Richard, if someone wants to connect with you, what will be the great medium to connect?
So my name is Richard Tierney. I have a Facebook page. I have a Tierney Therapy, and I have Trauma Recovery Anonymous is the actual program for this healing from trauma. Trauma Recovery Anonymous, and that's also on Facebook. I have a LinkedIn page, Tierney Therapy. I have an email address you can contact me at. It's information at traumarecoveryanonymous.com. Can I finish with a couple of things?
Sure.
First off, this audience, this podcast is called Mind Over Masculinity, and all our troubles are in our mind. It's what we think, our attitude, our perspective, and our outlook. If you can change your attitude, your perspective, and your outlook, and see that you're carrying the memory and the sympathy pains for your younger self, and it didn't happen to you, you can heal from this, and it won't take you long. I do a 3 hour healing event with my clients, and at the end of the 3 hours, you're free of it completely. Now, if you've been conditioned by mental health professionals where you're in therapy for 10, 20, 30 years, the idea of 3 hours sounds insane, but it's all about you changing your mind. I can't fix or save you. Your therapist can't fix or save you. It's all down to you, the individual, changing your attitude, your outlook, and perspective, and accepting that if I'm a 64-year-old man today, I can't be a 12-year-old child 52 years ago. So a nice exercise I suggest is take a sheet of paper, write your name and your age at the top of the page, and on that page write everything to do with your life in the present without bringing the past into it. So if you're married, if you have children, if you have brothers and sisters, parents, friends, what your job is, your colleagues, put on the page everything about your responsibilities and your duties and your friends and your fellowship and your interests about who you are today. And understand that's where your life is. And the past has nothing to do with you. When you bring the past into the present, you can't do your present. Just you end up neglecting part of this page. Whatever when you bring the past in and start going around saying, "I was abused at the age of 12," and you go down that path, you're neglecting this page in front of you, and your life is in this page in front of you. So one is accept that you're not a victim. You never were a victim. If Avik decides not to post this podcast tonight because I don't resonate with his audience, it's not about me being bad. It's about Avik made a decision for himself. I'm not the victim. I'm not saying Avik's going to drop me or anything, but if that was the case, it's not about me being a victim of Avik. How could Avik do this to me? Avik isn't doing it to me. Avik's making a decision for his channel, what's the best for his channel. So if your wife wants a divorce, she's not divorcing you. She wants a better life for her. It's about her needs, her wants being met, and she's looking for that. And if it means divorcing you, should divorce you, but it's not about you being the victim of this. It's about her taking care of herself. If your boss fires you, it's not he's out to get you because he employed you in the first place. He wanted you to fulfill a role, and because you're not able to fulfill that role for him, he has to find somebody else. So it's not out to get you. He's looking after his own interests. So we have to understand we're not the victim. If we can get out of victimhood, your life is going to change phenomenally. Second is to understand you're never alone. Between Avik's podcast and all the other podcast community, YouTube and Spotify and all the social media and all the libraries in the world and all the resources on the internet, there's always someone you can talk to. I have to tell you, one time I was traveling home to Ireland and I got very depressed in the airport. This is many years later, but I got very depressed and I didn't want to stay in this depression. So I went over to this guy. He could have been someone who doesn't speak English. I went over, sat beside him, and said, "I'm in a bad space. Can I talk to you?" And he just nodded, and I just spewed out my stuff at him. And then he goes, "I got to go for my flight," and he walked away to his plane, and I felt better for it. And then when I'm walking, my wife has a Chihuahua dog, and I bring her for short walks, about 100 yards. When I go for a walk, I give all my crap to the dog. The dog's there doing his pees and poos, oblivious to me, but I get to tell my stuff to the dog. The dog, I think, hears it. And then he goes back home and he's happy, and I've released it. So there's always someone or something you can share it with. Letter writing is very good. And after you write the letter, you burn it. Don't send it to anybody, but you burn it like a peace offering to God. If you write a letter to your father, your mother, your abuser, your mother, and you curse them out of the heavens, then you burn it and you flush it and you feel like you've been heard. So the second step is to know that you're never alone, never truly alone. I'm not talking about therapists, but the family, friends, neighbors. There's always someone around you can call on. And the third one is there is a God. He created the universe. Now, whether you're a Hindu or a Buddhist or whatever, except there is a God, that we didn't come here by chance, that he created us for a reason. For all your defects and shortcomings, all your doubts and insecurities, God created you for a reason. He has a purpose for you to be in this life. You have meaning to be here. If you left this world, the world would be a worse place because you're gone. You have a reason and a purpose for living, and you need to live in the present, not in the past, in the present. You have to let go of the past, and the best way is to give it back to your younger self. So my practice is where I meet my young 12-year-old self who says to me, "Richard, give me back my shit so I can leave this plane of existence," and I can see him looking at me imploringly, and I give him his crap, and he steps into the light. In that moment, I'm free of it. And it's that simple a practice, but it's down to you changing your attitude, your outlook, and perspective. So I will take you through this process if you want to. The books are available on the Amazon platform and on other book platforms. The healing event, and then it's called Healing Any Trauma Memory, and the 12-step program is Trauma Recovery Anonymous. So the healing event is a 2-hour event for giving the past back to your younger self. And the second part is a 1-hour practice of doing the 12 steps to undo the learned behavior of the mental disorder diagnosis. Thank you, Avik. Sorry, I got all that in.
No issue.
Good.
No issue. That's totally fine. I totally agree. And so yes, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference and details. And with this hope, until next time, this is your host Avik reminding you that real masculinity is not about carrying the trauma, but it's all about feeling yourself, and so you can live fully and love deeply. So, with this hope, thank you so much.